All right, everybody, welcome back to the best training channel on YouTube. Today, track day, acceleration focus. A few things we are going to do today is we're going to do the triple broad jumps again, trying to stretch this out, maintaining week after week. I've been able to get 10 meters plus on every single week, so we're going to aim for that 10 meter mark and see if we can't stretch that out a little bit this week. We're also going to go through our acceleration complex, but as we do our acceleration complex today, I'm going to be racing Will Ratelle for the third time. He did a setup where he had his 1 yard lead in into a 15-yard fly versus the 1 yard lead in into a 20. And he wanted to get some numbers on that. He sent them over to me. I said, all right, Monday, I got it. We're gonna knock out some 15s and we're gonna race again. So we're gonna race Will Ratelle as we do our complex. So I'm still gonna do the sled work and then I'll just measure the 1 yard lead into the 15-yard sprint as I do my unresisted accelerations today. So I'm finishing up my warm-up. I'm still using these bands, figuring out whether or not I like them. I'm leaning towards I like them. I'm still trying to figure out the best way to kind of implement them in my warm-up and then more specifically into the training, because I don't want to just use them for the warm-up. I want to figure out a way I can use this to try to impact my training a little bit. But I'm going to go through some warm-up drills and then I'll talk about the broad jump and how I've got everything set up for that. First thing we're doing today is going to be a triple broad jump. I got cones set up at every 1 meter mark, and then the yellow cone is at the 11th meter. So that way you guys can have a little bit more of a visual on how these are gonna look for distance wise. Otherwise it's gonna be really difficult to see how far I'm jumping if I just jumped and had the tape measure there. So we're gonna do 3 to 4 reps and just see how this goes. All right, that first one, say 990, somewhere between 990 and 995. So we'll just bring it back and say it's 990. So to help you get a little bit better of a visual, the center of this cone is on the meter. So this one is at 6 meters. The cone itself is 20 centimeters wide. So just passing the cone gets me 10 centimeters past that meter mark. So it's not going to probably look like if I hit 10 meters, 10, it's probably gonna look like I land on the cone. But that's because the width of the cone is going to give a little bit of a view where it doesn't look like I'm clearing the actual meter mark, but the exact center of the cone is going to be on that meter mark. And then 10 centimeters short, 10 centimeters past, exactly in the middle is gonna be that meter. Spread it out a little further, get towards 10 meters. That one is right on 10 meters. That one is 10, 15. Try to get 10, 20 plus. I think last week my best was like a 10:30, no, 10:28, I think it was. So we'll try to get 10:20 plus again. My legs are feeling pretty good, so let's see what happens. 10:21. Last one, best one. 10:36. All right, I said last one, but I lied. I just went and looked at my phone. I did a 10:38 last week. I just got 10:36. For whatever reason, I feel like I can beat that. So we're gonna do one more. Oh, don't move the foot. No, 10:38. And it's probably a little bit less than that. I feel like when I landed, I dragged my toe just a little bit, but 10:38. All right, so right now I'm gonna set up for the acceleration complex that I've done over the last few weeks. This week is more about just adding volume. So we're not changing the loads on the sled at all. We're not changing the distances that we run at all. We're just going to try to do additional sets compared to what we started with on week 1 and week 2. So that should be somewhere around 4 total sets of the complex. Week 1, I did 2 of them. Week 2, I did 3 sets. This week, I'm gonna try to do 4. So that's the goal for today, 4 complex sets. Got the very, very heavy sled that we're gonna do, more of just kind of like working on coordination and strength and positions with that heavy sled, applying force the most efficient way so we can move that heavy sled and project ourselves at the angle that we need to project at. Then we're gonna go into a lighter sled, try to take the force that we were applying with that heavy sled, lighten the load up, and now try to apply it with a little bit more velocity. And then we're gonna go into an unresisted sprint and time that 15-yard fly so we can get some numbers compared to what Will was at. But the unresisted sprint is just to kind of try to put it all together, try to project at the angle you need to project at with the acceleration, coordinated, applying force in the most efficient way. Plus, that's going to be introducing the angles and the positions that you were doing with the sled, but trying to mimic it at velocity with no resistance. So it's easy to do with the sled because you've got the sled pulling against you. It's going to slow you down. You're not going to hit nearly as high velocities as you would if you didn't pull a sled. So you get to try to work on those positions and feel what it's like to drive the knee up, put the foot down into the ground. You get a lot more feedback with something like that. And then really what you're trying to do when you take the sled away is to try to mimic everything you did with the sled, but just without the sled at much faster velocities than you had with the sled. Contrast training for acceleration work, my favorite thing to do when developing acceleration. Plus we got a little bit of a battle today with Will. I'm gonna look up real quick on my phone what he sent me. So he did these last week, I believe on like Wednesday or Thursday. No, on Friday. He said, you ever done a 15-yard? This was a 1-yard lead into a 15-yard sprint. He did 2 of them. 2:06 was his best. The other was 2:10. And I told him I haven't done it, but I'll do it on Monday. So that's what we're gonna do. Try to beat a 2:06 on that flying 15-meter or flying 15-yard acceleration. So sled is loaded up. Let's get after it. Very heavy sled. What we're trying to do, maintain projection angle, apply force very hard into the ground to get this sled moving. I think I got about 80 kilos on the sled, which is slightly above 80% body weight. So as you notice, I did 2 of those. So what I did is 7 hard steps, took a break. The break really doesn't matter how long it is, just as long as you feel fresh enough to do the next repetition at its maximum effort as you can. So I did 7 hard steps, took a break, 7 hard steps back. Now we're gonna go for distance. We're gonna do 15 meters with 30 kilos on the sled. So a little bit less than 50%, or a little bit more than 50% off of what we did for our heavy sled. We're gonna do the same thing. Sprint down 15 meters, rest for as long as we need to. In order to bring that sled back, we'll sprint back for 15 meters, and then we're gonna do 1 acceleration at 15 meters with no sled. So that's the whole complex, that's 1 set. That's why doing 4 sets of this is gonna end up being a lot of sprints. That's the plan for today. I'm gonna load this sled up and we're gonna get after it. And again, the rest on this is as long as you need to feel fresh to do the next rep at maximum effort. Might be a minute for some, might be 2 minutes for some, it doesn't matter. We're just resting in order to feel like we can go fresh and hard on each one of these reps, try to get the maximum amount of intent out of each of these sprints that we're doing. We don't want this to be conditioning. We have a lot of volume to do, so maintaining that rest and maybe being a little bit too conservative with it and resting too long is gonna be better than trying to go too quick. Are you trying to race? All right, so I got my cones already set up for the 15. First cone here gives me a 1-yard lead in. If y'all remember the first Race with Will video, I explained the distance that first cone needs to be at, which is 1.71. I'm not gonna explain it again. You guys can go back and watch that other video. But then in between these 2 cones, 15 yards. So I have my 1-yard lead in, 15-yard sprint, and we're gonna measure this out, and we're gonna see where I'm gonna be at compared to racing Will. $199. All right, 199 on that first rep. It actually felt pretty slow, so I'm expecting that to drop down at least for rep 2 and 3. On rep number 4, I have a feeling fatigue is gonna set in a little bit. I might be a little bit tired by the time I get there, because that's gonna be, what, 2, 4, 5, 10, 15. I'm gonna be at like rep number 20 at that point in terms of total sprints that I'm doing for the day, which is probably pretty high on the total volume sprints for a single session, but it doesn't matter. We're gonna get after it today. But everything you just saw right there, that's one set. So heavy sled march or sled sprint for 7 steps. The reason why I do 7 steps is because 7 steps is gonna mimic that first 10 meters of an acceleration. Generally, if you're doing your 40-yard dash, 7 steps is gonna be where you see the fast people are gonna be at or past 10 meters on that 7th step. So that's why I'm doing that heavy one for 7 steps. The lighter one is for 15 yards or 15 meters. I keep getting this mixed up because I'm racing Will with yards, and I'm also always measure everything in meters. But the second one is 15 meters with a lighter sled, and then 15 meters with no sled, just to try to mimic each other on those two. When I program this, for those that are following on the subscription program, I only program 1 rep of each, because this can be a very time-consuming session, and I want to make sure you guys can get everything done within an hour. So this is a slight variance from what you guys who are on the subscription program to what I'm doing here at the track. That's just because I have the luxury today where I can train for as long as I want. I don't have anything to do until 4 o'clock this afternoon. It's only 10 o'clock right now, so I've got plenty of time to get all this done. But that's going to be the setup for today. We're going to knock out some more repetitions on this. We'll measure out that 15 yards and see if we can't drop it a little bit lower than that 199 for the first rep. All right, rep number 2 on the racing wheel RATELLE today. Felt like I was spinning my wheels. And what I mean by spinning my wheels was like, you feel like you're picking your feet up and putting them down real fast in those first 5 meters, but all you're doing is just picking your feet up, putting it down. You're not actually pushing and projecting. So I felt like I just kind of like burnt out in the beginning and then kind of caught up and started moving. So we're gonna change that on the next one. Another thing we're gonna do, we're gonna take off this long sleeve. I'm getting warm. I got another shirt on underneath. Go Buckeyes. That is it for the session today. I was able to hit a 199, 2 206s, and then a 204 to end the session. So I'm happy with those numbers. I'm gonna do it again next week, see if I can't beat that 199. Because I think next week I'm only gonna do 2 sets of this, give myself a little bit of a deload before we go into the next training block. And I also have a feeling Will's gonna see this, and he's gonna go out and try to beat something out there as well. So it's fun to have those kind of little rivalries or competitions, whatever you want to call it. Will started this with the flying 20s, and then what was it? Cody from Athlete X hopped in and destroyed everybody, but to be expected as well. He's a track guy, so he should be beating us on all of these. If he doesn't beat us on any one of these, then something's probably wrong on that. But nonetheless, I appreciate you guys for watching. Make sure to like, make sure to subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.